China's misinformation campaign to divide America, how chocolates became a national security threat, and human rights are so bourgeois. That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by PC Doctor Toolbox. Protect your PC from software crashes, hardware failures, and the kind of glitches that make your life miserable. So, according to a new report from the cybersecurity firm Mandiant, China has launched a misinformation campaign. It attempts to use COVID to divide America. Accounts in the network have actively sought to physically mobilize protesters in the U.S. in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, though we have seen no indication that these attempts motivated any real-world activity. What's interesting is this group started out trying to get Americans to turn against pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong. But now, the group has their fingers in a bunch of pies. It's now a global campaign that's operating in more than 7 languages, on at least 30 social media platforms, and across 40-plus websites and forums. It's not just Twitter and Facebook. These fake accounts are on TikTok, Vimeo, Tumblr, and LiveJournal? Is this 2005? Should I start up my MySpace account again? Social media accounts tied to this campaign even called on Asian Americans to protest racial injustices in the U.S. Again, they weren't necessarily successful. What the report mainly shows is just how rapidly these misinformation campaigns tied to the Chinese regime are expanding. But while this talk of unrestricted warfare is terrifying and all, let's also talk about good old-fashioned kinetic warfare. Taiwan says 19 Chinese warplanes entered their air defense zone. And the chief of NATO gave a speech warning about China's rapidly expanding nuclear arsenal.
China's nuclear arsenal is rapidly expanding, with more warheads and more sophisticated delivery systems. Moreover, China is building a large number of missile silos, which can significantly increase its nuclear capability. All of this is happening without any limitation or constraint, and with a complete lack of transparency.
And with an eye on the ever-increasing global security threat from the Chinese Communist Party, the UK sent an aircraft carrier to assist Japan with training drills. Japan is seeking to expand its military cooperation beyond its traditional alliance with the United States, as China's Navy expands and increasingly presses its territorial claims. And in a really bizarre story, Germany's envoy to China has died just 2 weeks into the job. The cause of death has yet to be confirmed. And after the break, things in Hong Kong are getting bad and kind of weird. Welcome back. Over in Hong Kong, things have gone from bad to worse to stupid. In 2020, the Chinese government imposed a draconian national security law on Hong Kong that stripped the city of basically all of its freedoms in the name of protecting national security. Well, guess what the latest threat to national security is? Chocolate and hair clips. That was after anti-riot prison officers suppressed a protest by female detainees in a prison last week. What's that, you say? That still makes no sense? Well, you see, one of those female prisoners might have been pro-democracy activist Tiffany Yuen. And as you can see in this slide presented by Hong Kong authorities, some of these detainees were in possession of chocolate and hairpins in excess of what was allowed by the prison. What's that, you say? That still makes no sense? Well, you see, Hong Kong's Secretary for Security, Chris Tong, said, "Many people may wonder what the problem is with having one more hair clip, one more piece of chocolate." Well, that's because the hair clips and chocolates were given to detainees by aid groups to recruit followers and build influence and create hatred towards the government and endanger national security. Yes, that's how the Hong Kong Revolution of 2021 started, after prisoners were given extra hair clips and chocolate. Now, you may not know this, but Chris Tong is also a very accomplished yoga master, because that was one hell of a stretch. Meanwhile, Hong Kong police arrested the organizers of Hong Kong's annual Tiananmen Square Vigil. You know, the one that happens every year, except last year and this year, because of COVID. The group is called the Hong Kong Alliance in support of patriotic democratic movements of China, and it was formed in 1989 during the Tiananmen Square pro-democracy protests. The group said the police had sought details about its funding and membership for an inquiry into whether it was acting in collusion with foreign powers, a violation of the city's national security law. But the group refused to give that information to the police. According to Vice Chairwoman Chow Hong-tung, they refused because the police were trying to intimidate people, and they would not give in to that intimidation by complying. And in response, Hong Kong police arrested her. Next Digital, the media company owned by now jailed Hong Kong tycoon Jimmy Lai that produced the pro-democracy Apple Daily newspaper, has been forced to file for liquidation. Joke's on them. Chris Tong will probably say liquids are a threat to national security. And I know that joke doesn't make sense, but nothing in Hong Kong needs to make sense anymore. And coming up after the break, China's having another cultural revolution. Welcome back. Cultural Revolution 2.0 is underway in China. Top universities are being told to stop slacking off on teaching Communist Party ideology. I mean, look at those girls. The peace sign? They really should be making the hammer and sickle. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping is telling China's tycoons to share the wealth. And by share the wealth, he means give it to the Communist Party, who will redistribute it equally. And hey, you know what sucks? Human rights. State-run People's Daily published this piece where Xi Jinping explains the values of freedom, democracy, and human rights are advocated by the modern Western bourgeoisie. Wanting to keep your organs is so bourgeois. Your heart belongs to the party, which might be why the party doesn't want Chinese people giving it away to any no-good celebrities. China's entertainment industry was forced into going to a government-run meeting this week. The theme? Love the party, love the country, advocate morality and art. And nothing screams morality like a regime that routinely uses gang rape as a form of torture. This meeting was part of an ongoing crackdown on celebrities. I did a full episode about it last week. Link is below. And speaking of celebrities, bad news for China's Marvel fans. The latest Avengers movie, Shang-Chi, has still not been released in China. Chinese moviegoers are calling it a tragedy. What's crazy is Marvel had already tweaked potentially controversial elements of the narrative, like by removing the problematic character Fu Manchu. And they included a bunch of Asian actors, including mainland China-born star Meng Jiang. And they shot part of the film in the Chinese city of Macau. Marvel has been working for years to get in good with Chinese authorities. So why hasn't the film been released in the mainland? No one knows. This may surprise Hollywood studio executives that haven't been watching my show, but sometimes when you work with the Chinese regime, you get Shang-Chi'd. You know what probably won't help Marvel get Shang-Chi released in China? Chinese netizens are upset at an old interview of star Simu Liu talking about his starvation under communism in China. A nationalist Weibo account dug up a 2017 CBC interview with the actor. Liu was born in China but immigrated to Canada when he was 5. In the interview, he talks about how his parents told him stories of growing up in communist China, where people were dying of starvation, and that his parents dreamed of having a, quote, free life in Canada. Yeah, that's not going to get your movie into China. Speaking of tragedies, this incredible 200-foot-tall bronze statue of the Chinese god of war is being forcibly relocated. Now, Guan Yu knows how millions of ordinary Chinese people feel when party officials force them out of their homes. But I kid you not, the party has launched a crackdown on what it calls large projects. Granted, this statue cost $26 million to build, and it was built illegally, and some locals call it an eyesore. What I'm saying is, I'll be happy to take it off your hands. It'll look great in my New York City apartment. And finally, Australia's agriculture minister is warning that mooncakes are a biosecurity risk, which is absolutely true. You eat 10 mooncakes in one sitting and tell me that's not a biosecurity risk. And this episode is sponsored by PC Doctor Toolbox, because sometimes your computer eats too many mooncakes. There's that and other reasons your computer crashes, like buggy software, hardware failures, and general slowdowns with older computers. And the worst part is, your computer always seems to crash at the worst time, like when you're about to give a presentation or when you're on the road and there's no IT person around to help. Fortunately, there's PC Doctor Toolbox. If you're concerned about the health of your computer and want tools to prevent untimely system issues, you should be using PC Doctor Toolbox. Stop crashes before they happen. And we have a special 50% off discount just for China Uncensored viewers. Use the link and coupon code below to take advantage of this limited time offer. I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.